Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm bringing you one of the most emotional and unexpected stories you'll hear all week. A story about a single dad, a mysterious girl everyone thought couldn't speak or move, and a truth so powerful that when she finally opened her mouth to speak, her first words shattered him completely. So sit tight, because this isn't just a love story, it's a story about deception, sacrifice, healing, and the kind of moment that can change someone's heart forever. It all began on a chilly Saturday morning when Daniel, a 32-year-old single father, was rushing through the front door of his tiny apartment trying to get his 7-year-old daughter Lily ready for school. Daniel had been raising Lily alone since she was 2 years old. After her mother walked out without warning, he worked long hours at a furniture workshop doing repairs, custom pieces, anything that paid enough to keep food on the table. Daniel was the type of father who didn't complain, he didn't ask for help, he just kept going. But even he knew he was lonely, especially when Lily would ask him quietly, "Dad, why don't you have someone to talk to at night?" One day after work, Daniel's coworker and only real friend Sam slapped him on the back and said, "Dude, you need to get out, like really get out, you're starting to turn into a furniture ghost." Daniel laughed it off, but Sam didn't let up. He insisted on setting Daniel up on a special date. Someone Sam said was kind, sweet, gentle, and perfect for him. Daniel wasn't convinced, but after weeks of Sam pushing, he finally agreed, mostly because Sam said, "She's really amazing, man, and she needs someone good like you." The next Friday evening, Daniel found himself standing in front of a quiet, cozy cafe with warm yellow lights inside. He wore his cleanest shirt. Lily had even brushed off the lint and told him, "Daddy, you look handsome." He was nervous but hopeful. He stepped inside looking for the person Sam described, a girl named Aria. Sam had told him she was shy, introverted, and had a soft manner. He never mentioned anything unusual, so Daniel didn't expect anything out of the ordinary at all. But when he approached the table number Sam gave him, his eyes widened. Sitting there was a girl who looked maybe in her late 20s, beautiful in a soft, delicate way, with long dark hair falling over her shoulders, but she sat completely still, her hands resting motionless on her lap, her gaze unfocused, slightly angled downward. Daniel hesitated, then gently said, "Hi, I'm Daniel, nice to meet you." The girl didn't move, didn't blink, didn't react. A cafe worker nearby stepped over and whispered softly, "Sir, she can't hear you. She's deaf and also partially paralyzed. She communicates mostly with simple expressions, but some days she doesn't respond at all." Daniel felt his stomach drop. He looked at Aria again and suddenly felt guilty, like he had intruded on something he didn't understand. He awkwardly thanked the worker and sat down slowly, unsure of what he was supposed to do here. Sam never said anything about this. Nothing he'd said prepared Daniel for this. Daniel tried his best to make polite conversation, trying not to raise his voice too much or speak too fast. Even though she couldn't hear him, he spoke gently anyway. She didn't respond, but her eyes blinked slowly as if acknowledging his presence. After the date, Daniel confronted Sam at work. "Why didn't you tell me she was deaf and paralyzed? What were you thinking?" Sam looked uncomfortable, scratching the back of his head. "Look, man, I was trying to help. Aria's sister is a friend of mine," she said. "Aria hasn't been out since an accident last year. She thought maybe meeting someone kind might help." Daniel was stunned. "You tricked me." Sam insisted it wasn't like that, but Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that he'd been thrown into something he didn't choose. Despite everything, something in Daniel wouldn't let him simply walk away. He kept remembering the way Aria blinked when he talked, as if she was trying so hard to be present despite everything life had done to her. Lily noticed her father was quieter than usual, and one evening she asked, "Are you thinking about that girl we saw?" And Daniel realized he felt something between pity, curiosity, and a strange pull he couldn't explain. So he decided to visit Aria again, this time on his own terms. She went to her sister's house a week later and was welcomed inside. Aria sat near the window, a soft blanket over her legs, staring outside. When she heard, or perhaps sensed, movement, she slowly turned her head. Daniel approached, gently tapping the floor with his foot so she'd feel the vibration. Her eyes met his and something softened in them, like she remembered him. Her sister explained that Aria wasn't born deaf or paralyzed. She had been in a car accident that took her fiancé's life and left her traumatized and unable to speak or move like she used to. Doctors said there might be hope for recovery, but emotionally she had shut down. Everyone who cared about her had left except her sister. Daniel listened quietly, then asked, "May I spend time with her?" Her sister's eyes filled with gratitude. From that day on, Daniel visited twice a week, sometimes with Lily, sometimes alone. He'd sit by her window and read books aloud. Even though she couldn't hear him, Lily would show her drawings and place them on her lap, and Aria always reacted just enough: a flutter of her eyelashes, a faint twitch of her fingers, a slight movement of her lips. Daniel realized she wasn't gone, she was Trapped inside her own silence and fear, and somehow that made him want to be there even more. Weeks went by and something unexpected began happening. Whenever Daniel walked into the room, Aria's eyes would brighten just a little. Whenever Lily sat beside her, Aria's fingers would twitch almost like she wanted to brush a stray hair behind Lily's ear. And one afternoon when Daniel joked about how messy Lily's room was, Aria's lips curved the tiniest bit, almost like she wanted to smile. Daniel saw it and froze, his heart pounding, and for the first time he wondered if maybe she wasn't as lost as everyone believed. Over time, Daniel started learning simple sign gestures from her sister, nothing complicated, just enough to say, "Hello, how are you, Lily? Happy, and I'm here." Sometimes Aria blinked twice in response, sometimes she looked away as if trying to hide emotion. Daniel never pushed, he never asked her to talk, never pressured her to move, he just showed up week after week, proving without words that she wasn't alone. One rainy evening, Lily wasn't feeling well, so Daniel visited Aria alone. He knocked gently and her sister let him in, whispering, "She's been quiet today, more than usual. I think she's scared again." Daniel entered the room and found Aria sitting in her wheelchair next to the window, watching the raindrops slide down the glass. She looked lost. Daniel sat beside her and began talking softly, telling her about Lily's day, about work, about how he accidentally glued 2 pieces of wood wrong and had to redo a whole cabinet. He talked because silence around her didn't feel empty, it felt safe, like a space she was allowing him to share. And then something happened that made Daniel's breath catch. Aria very slowly lifted her trembling hand, her fingers twitched and she pointed at him. Daniel leaned closer, confused. He whispered, "What is it?" Her lips moved just slightly, no sound came out, but her eyes locked onto his with intensity he'd never seen before. She tried again, her throat tightened, her breathing quickened and her whole body shook faintly. Daniel gently touched her hand and said softly, "It's okay, you don't have to push yourself." But she squeezed his fingers weakly as if insisting. Her sister rushed in, hearing the movement, and gasped, "Aria, don't force yourself." But Aria shook her head, tiny but unmistakable, and Daniel realized she wasn't trying to talk because she felt pressured. She was trying because she wanted to tell him something important, something she had been holding inside for months, maybe longer. Aria inhaled shakily, her lips parted and a tiny raspy sound escaped, the first sound she had made in more than a year. Daniel felt his entire chest tighten. She tried again, and this time the sound formed a faint broken whisper, "Thank you." Daniel froze. He didn't know if he had heard it right. Her sister's hand flew to her mouth and she began sobbing. Daniel felt tears sting his own eyes. Aria was trembling, her voice almost non-existent, but her eyes were full of emotion, overflowing with gratitude, fear, hope, everything she couldn't say until now. Daniel leaned closer, his own voice breaking. "Aria, you spoke." She nodded barely, then whispered again, softer this time but clearer than before, "Thank you for not giving up on Meadows." Words shattered Daniel. Something inside him broke wide open. All the walls he built around his heart, the loneliness, the exhaustion, the years of feeling invisible as a single father, every piece of him cracked at once. He buried his face in his hands, trying to steady his breath, because no one had ever said those words to him like that, with so much meaning, so much vulnerability. Aria was crying too, silent tears sliding down her cheeks, her body shaking. Daniel gently wiped them away, whispering, "I'm not going anywhere, you're safe, you're not alone." Days later, Aria's progress stunned even her doctors. Each visit Daniel made seemed to pull more emotion out of her, more strength. She began trying to move her hands, her legs, a little at a time. She wasn't fully mobile, but she was fighting. She was waking up from the darkness that had swallowed her for so long. She wasn't the girl who stared out windows anymore. She was a girl whose eyes followed Daniel whenever he walked into the room, whose lips trembled when Lily hugged her, who smiled, actually smiled, when Daniel brought her roses for the first time. But the truth came out in a way Daniel didn't expect. One afternoon, Sam showed up at Daniel's workshop looking nervous. "Bro, I need to tell you something. It's about Aria." Daniel tensed. "What now?" Sam rubbed his face. "I didn't tell you the whole truth when I set you up, Aria. She knew who you were before that date." Daniel blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" Sam explained. Aria had seen Daniel at the hospital a year ago when Lily had a bad fever. Daniel had rushed her to the ER and sat beside her all night. Aria had still been recovering from the accident, unable to talk or move, but she saw him comforting Lily, brushing her hair, singing to her softly, trying so hard not to cry himself. She saw him, and according to her sister, she wouldn't stop looking at him. She wrote on a notepad one sentence, the only thing she wrote for months, "I want to meet him." Daniel felt his heartbeat stop. Sam continued, "Her sister didn't know how to approach you. She didn't want to scare you, so she asked me to arrange something that seemed natural. I didn't mean to trick you. I was trying to help. She thought meeting you might give Aria a spark, a reason to fight again." Daniel didn't know how to react, a mix of confusion, Warmth and shock washed over him. Aria wanted to meet him long before he ever knew she existed, and now she said her first words to him, not to anyone else but him. That evening Daniel went to see Aria again. She was sitting by the window as usual, but this time when she saw him her expression shifted to something soft, familiar, hopeful. Daniel walked closer. Sitting in front of her, he looked into her eyes and whispered, "Is it true? Did you want to meet me even back then?" Aria looked down shyly, her fingers trembling. She moved her lips slowly and whispered, "Yes." Daniel laughed softly, a broken emotional laugh. "Why me?" Aria's breathing shook. She gathered every ounce of strength. She had leaned forward just a little and whispered, "Because you were kind." Those four simple words felt heavier than anything Daniel had ever carried. Kindness wasn't something he thought anyone noticed. He thought he was just surviving, doing what he had to do for Lily, but somehow Aria saw it even when she herself was lost, broken. Trapped inside her own body, she still recognized the light in someone else. Daniel reached for her hand, gently lifting it. She didn't pull away. Her fingers curled weakly around his, and Daniel felt something settle inside him, like a piece he didn't know was missing finally clicked into place. He whispered, "Aria, I don't know what this means yet. I don't know where this leads, but I want to walk this path with you if you want me to." Her eyes filled with tears. She nodded slowly, whispering, "I want that." Months passed and Aria continued improving. Physical therapy, speech practice, emotional healing. She wasn't fully recovered, not yet, but she was fighting every day because she had something worth fighting for. Daniel became her constant support. Lily adored her, always drawing pictures of the three of them holding hands. Aria kept every drawing pinned by her window, and every time she whispered a new word, Daniel felt his heart melt a little more. One evening after a long therapy session, Aria was exhausted and Daniel sat beside her on the couch. Lily slept in the other room. Daniel held Aria's hand softly, brushing his thumb along her knuckles. She leaned her head onto his shoulder, something she hadn't been able to do months before, and whispered, "Daniel, yes. Thank you again for saving me." Daniel turned to her, smiling. "You saved yourself." Aria shook her head gently. "No. You gave me a reason to try." Daniel kissed her forehead tenderly and whispered, "You gave me one too." Because the truth was, Aria didn't just find her voice. Daniel found his heart again, the one he thought he lost years ago, and the girl who supposedly couldn't speak became the one whose first fragile words changed his entire world forever. And that's the story, everyone, of how a single dad tricked into a date he never expected ended up discovering the kind of love that doesn't happen by chance but by fate. Thanks for watching, and if you want more emotional stories like this one, make sure to like, share and subscribe. Stay kind, stay hopeful, and I'll see you in the next video.